How are you doing today? I hope everything has been peaceful for you so far. If you're new here, welcome to our little corner of calm history. I invite you to take a deep breath, relax, and let the peaceful sounds of history wash over you. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you won't miss any of our future explorations into history. And feel free to comment below. I'd love to hear how you're doing today. How's everything going in your world? Take your time, no rush, as we begin tonight's journey. Let's focus on a fascinating topic. How did ancient civilizations build their incredible structures without the modern tools we take for granted today? It's something that might seem impossible in today's fast-paced world, but back then, it was a testament to patience, skill, and the determination of human beings to leave their mark. These ancient builders didn't have the luxury of cranes or power tools. Instead, they relied on simple yet effective methods that would surprise you with their ingenuity. So, as we begin, take a moment to settle in. Imagine, for a second, the cool air around you as the sound of tools echo in your mind. Ancient civilizations, whether in Egypt, Mesopotamia, or Greece, had one thing in common. They all built with remarkable precision, using the resources they had at hand. And while we might think of these structures as monumental feats, they were, in many ways, the result of quiet, repetitive work. Think of how each stone was cut and placed with care, as though every step in the process was part of a calming, rhythm-like dance that led to something monumental. Now, before we go any further, how about a quick moment to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this peaceful exploration of history? It's a great way to ensure you get more tranquil content just like this. And if you're feeling extra relaxed, why not share how you're doing today in the comments? I'm always curious to hear what's going on with you, whether it's about your day, your thoughts, or how this calm historical dive helps you unwind. As we explore these ancient builders, we'll see how these people, with their limited resources, managed to construct some of the most remarkable structures that still stand today. From the majestic pyramids of Egypt to the mysterious ziggurats of Mesopotamia, these civilizations left behind legacies built on hard work, dedication, and creativity. As we start to visualize the quiet work these builders did, picture them working by the light of the sun, their movements steady, never rushed. It's almost like a peaceful rhythm where each task, no matter how small, contributed to the bigger picture. I want you to imagine for a moment being a builder in ancient Egypt, waking up early to the soft sounds of the world around you. The air is warm, and the work ahead is long but meaningful. You and your fellow workers carry heavy stones, not with cranes or machines, but with pulleys, ropes, and sheer muscle. The sound of stones being moved, the creaking of wood, and the rhythmic chanting of workers is a steady beat that echoes through the construction site. There's no rush, no hurry. The work continues, bit by bit, stone by stone, until the structure slowly comes to life. These ancient builders understood the importance of patience. Every task, no matter how small or mundane it seemed, had a purpose. Whether it was preparing the ground or chiseling a stone, each act was done with care and attention to detail. This calm, methodical approach to building can teach us something valuable: that greatness often requires time, precision, and quiet focus. The structures we see today are not only a testament to their skill, but to their unwavering commitment to doing things the right way, even without the tools we have now. The ancient Egyptians, for instance, used copper tools to shape stones. Can you picture it? The soft clink of copper against stone as it gradually formed the shapes needed to create their pyramids. It wasn't fast, it wasn't easy, But each stroke of the chisel, every cut made, was an important part of something much bigger. It's almost like the calm, steady rhythm of your breathing, a reminder that things can take time, and that's okay. In the absence of modern technology, ancient builders relied on their knowledge of simple machines. They used levers, pulleys, and ramps to move large blocks of stone. Imagine the slow and methodical sound of workers pulling ropes, lifting heavy blocks from one place to another as they worked together in sync. Every block placed was another step closer to completing their goal. There was no urgency, just a quiet determination that the task at hand would be completed, no matter how long it took. We can learn so much from these ancient builders. In a world that often feels rushed, their ability to take time with their work, to pay attention to every detail, is a practice we can incorporate into our own lives. It's not about the speed of completion, but about doing the work with care, knowing that the outcome will be worth the effort, just like the pyramids and temples that still stand today. As we continue on this peaceful journey through history, remember that every task, no matter how small, adds up to something monumental. These ancient builders knew that, and their work, though quiet and steady, has lasted through the ages, standing tall as a testament to their patience, creativity, and dedication. So let's continue to breathe deeply, to let go of any stress, and to let the story of these ancient builders guide us toward a peaceful night's sleep. Before we dive deeper into the tools they used and the methods they employed, take a moment to relax. Close your eyes if you wish, and imagine these builders working on their great projects. Picture the steady movement of stone, the rhythmic lifting of heavy materials, and the calm pace of a world where progress was made slowly, carefully, and with deep focus. The air is warm, the work is steady, and there's no rush. Just one stone at a time, one task at a time. And as we continue, I encourage you to reflect on this. The builders of ancient civilizations didn't have the tools we have today, but they did have something far more valuable: patience, teamwork, and an understanding that great things take time. Take a moment to appreciate that as you settle into your night. The peace of knowing that sometimes things unfold at their own pace, and there's no need to rush. So, as we move forward, think about how these ancient methods of construction can bring a sense of calm to your mind. No matter how big or small the task ahead of you, remember that it doesn't need to be rushed. Whether it's building a pyramid or completing your daily tasks, there's beauty in doing things with care, just like these ancient builders did. Let's take a deep breath in and out. Imagine the quiet rhythm of ancient work, where each step forward is part of a larger journey. The builders may have worked without modern tools, but they created something timeless. Just like the quiet process of breathing, each step taken with intention, no matter how small, brings you closer to where you need to be. And with that peaceful thought, let's continue our exploration into the methods and techniques that these ancient builders used to create their masterpieces. As you drift into a restful sleep, remember that history teaches us valuable lessons, especially about patience and perseverance. The structures these builders left behind weren't just made of stone. They were made of time, patience, and a calm belief that things will unfold as they should. When we think about how ancient builders constructed massive structures, it's easy to assume they used the same advanced tools we have today. But the truth is, they relied on their surroundings, their creativity, and simple techniques that involved a lot of manual labor. Take the Egyptian pyramids, for example. These colossal monuments were constructed using large stone blocks that weighed tons. And yet, the workers had no cranes, no bulldozers, nothing to help them except simple tools and sheer determination. The first step in the process was cutting the stones themselves. Most of the pyramids were built from limestone, and these large blocks were carved out of quarries with copper chisels. Imagine the sound of copper against stone, a rhythmic tapping that would echo across the vast desert. The workers didn't just cut stone, though. They carefully shaped each block, making sure that each one was precise and fit perfectly into the overall design to transport these massive blocks to the building site. The ancient Egyptians used a combination of ropes, ramps, and manpower. Workers would slide the stones along the ground on sleds, sometimes using water to reduce friction. Can you picture the workers pulling on ropes, inching these heavy stones across the rough desert sand? It wasn't quick, but it was effective. Each stone moved with steady persistence, like a slow march toward progress. Once the stones arrived at the site, the real challenge began, lifting them into place. Without cranes, the Egyptians used ramps made of mudbrick, limestone, and other materials. The ramps were built gradually, allowing the workers to push or pull the stones up to the desired height. Picture the steady movement of the workers as they carefully positioned each block, inch by inch, with no rush, only patience. It was a task that required both skill and time, but ramps weren't the only technique. The ancient Egyptians also used levers. Imagine one worker pulling on a long wooden beam, lifting a stone just enough to slide it into place. Each action was done slowly, steadily, with an understanding that every little movement counted. The work was exhausting, but it was done with careful planning, with an awareness of the materials and the techniques at their disposal. As these monumental structures began to take shape, the workers found that every detail mattered. It wasn't just about moving heavy blocks. It was about precision. The stones needed to align perfectly, and the angles had to be exact. One wrong placement could throw off the entire structure. The calm and methodical approach of these workers ensured that the pyramids and temples would stand the test of time. There was no rush. The builders knew that slow, steady progress was key. Each block placed was a piece of the puzzle, and they could take as long as needed to make sure everything was just right. Their work was not driven by the clock, but by a deep understanding of the craft, and this quiet, patient work resulted in some of the most enduring structures ever created. In ancient Egypt, the most important thing wasn't speed, but accuracy and care. The workers focused on getting each stone perfectly into place. They knew that the work they were doing would last for generations. It was a humbling thought for the workers, knowing they were part of something much larger than themselves. They weren't just building for the present. They were building for the future. The precision of the builders in ancient Egypt can still be seen today. The pyramids are still standing, despite the wear and tear of thousands of years. The alignment of the stones, the careful cutting, and the steady pace at which the work progressed ensured that these structures could withstand time. It's almost as though the patience of the builders is embedded in the stones themselves. Now, as we think about these builders, imagine the sound of the stones, the tools, the workers moving in rhythm. It was a world of calm repetition. The sun would rise each day, and the workers would begin again, moving stones, lifting them into place, making slow, steady progress. It was a job that required no haste, only careful, deliberate action. And through this quiet process, something extraordinary was built. As we continue to imagine this world, think about the tools the workers used. Most of the tools were simple but incredibly effective. They used copper chisels for cutting and shaping the stones, wooden sledges to move the blocks, and ropes to help lift them. These tools weren't complex, but they were reliable. Every action was deliberate and careful, and it was this simplicity that allowed the builders to achieve greatness. In addition to the tools, the workers relied heavily on cooperation. The process of moving and lifting heavy blocks was never done alone. It took dozens, sometimes hundreds, of workers working in sync. Each worker had a role to play, from pulling the ropes to carving the stones. It was a collective effort, where each person's contribution was essential to the final result. Can you picture the teamwork involved? The workers standing together, moving in unison to shift heavy stones. The rhythm of the ropes, the sound of the sledges hitting the ground, the careful planning of each step. It wasn't a race. It was a shared effort, one that required patience and trust. The workers knew that each piece of the puzzle had to fit perfectly to create the larger picture, and as the pyramids took shape, there was a sense of pride among the workers. They knew they were part of something extraordinary. It wasn't just about the structure they were building. It was about the legacy they were leaving behind. These builders weren't just constructing physical structures, they were building a legacy of patience, perseverance, and careful craftsmanship. Imagine the satisfaction of placing the final stone on top of a pyramid. After all the hard work, all the steady progress, the pyramid would stand tall, a testament to the patience and skill of the builders. It wasn't just a building, it was a monument to their dedication, a symbol of what humans can achieve when they work together with focus and care. These ancient builders didn't have the advanced technology we take for granted today. They didn't have cranes or power tools, but they did have something much more valuable: time. Time to work carefully, time to focus on each task, and time to build something that would last for millennia. The pyramids were not built in a rush, they were built with patience and precision. And that's a lesson we can carry with us. In a world that often values speed and efficiency, sometimes it's the slow and steady progress that leads to the greatest results. The ancient builders didn't focus on how fast they could complete their work. They focused on doing it right, taking their time to make sure every stone was placed with care. As we reflect on these ancient builders, let's remember that sometimes great things take time. The pyramids didn't appear overnight. They were the result of years of careful, patient work. And in that slow, steady progress, there is beauty. It's a reminder that the journey is just as important as the destination. So, as you relax tonight, think about the work of these ancient builders, their patience, their cooperation, and their careful craftsmanship. Imagine the steady rhythm of their work, the calm focus they brought to each task, and let that peace, that quiet determination, carry you into a restful night's sleep. The next time you feel rushed, remember the ancient builders. Take a deep breath and let the calm, steady pace of their work remind you that sometimes things take time. And with patience and care, even the greatest of structures can be built. Imagine a construction site in ancient times, vast, quiet, and filled with the steady hum of human labor. There were no machines or power tools to move the massive stones. Instead, the work was done by thousands of workers, each one playing a vital role in bringing the project to life. The manpower was the backbone of every great structure built in ancient civilizations, and it was their collective effort that allowed these massive projects to take shape. The workers on these sites weren't just skilled craftsmen, though. They were laborers, pulling ropes, lifting stones, and managing the complex logistics of construction. Imagine the workers standing in rows, pulling on thick ropes to move heavy blocks, their bodies working in unison, creating a quiet, rhythm-like beat. It was a shared task, one that required teamwork, focus, and an incredible amount of patience. Each worker knew his role, and every job, no matter how small, was essential to the success of the project. The tasks were repetitive, but there was comfort in the consistency. The rhythm of labor, day after day, was a constant. As the workers moved stones, carved the blocks, and set them into place, they were contributing to something much larger than themselves. Their efforts were building not just a structure, but a legacy that would last for generations. In many ways, these ancient workers were like cogs in a machine, each one playing a small but vital part. The construction process wasn't fast, but it was effective. Every task was done with care, no rush, just steady, calculated action. The workers didn't just focus on the immediate job at hand. They knew that each block moved, each stone set into place, brought the structure one step closer to completion. The labor force was large and diverse, composed of skilled craftsmen, engineers, and everyday laborers. Some workers would be involved in the delicate art of carving the stones, shaping them into the precise blocks needed for the structure. Others worked to transport these stones across long distances, using pulleys, ramps, and manpower to move them. And still, others would work at the very site, lifting the stones and setting them into position with great care and precision. It's amazing to think about the sheer number of people involved in building these ancient monuments. In Egypt, for example, tens of thousands of workers could be found at a single site. These workers were fed, housed, and cared for by the ruling class, but they were also incredibly skilled. They worked tirelessly, day after day, as they contributed to the creation of something that would stand the test of time. One thing that stands out is the lack of modern machinery. These ancient builders didn't have cranes or bulldozers, and they certainly didn't have the technology we rely on today. Instead, they used their bodies, their minds, and the resources around them to get the job done. The workers were a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance, proving that great things can be accomplished even without modern tools. Despite the grueling nature of the work, there was a sense of unity among the workers. This wasn't just a group of individuals working separately, but a team of people with a shared goal. The work was difficult, no doubt, but it was also a cooperative effort. The workers supported each other, making sure that each task was done properly, and it was their teamwork that allowed them to achieve what seemed impossible. The labor force wasn't just there to carry stones and set them in place, though they also had to think critically about the best way to perform their tasks. Skilled engineers, architects, and craftsmen would carefully plan the construction process, deciding the most efficient way to move and position the stones. These plans were vital to the success of the project and relied on the combined skills and knowledge of everyone involved. And so, the work continued, day after day, with each person contributing to the greater whole. The workers knew that their efforts were part of something much larger than just the building at hand. They were part of a legacy, one that would last thousands of years. The ancient structures they built would stand the test of time, a testament to the power of human labor and the strength of collective effort. The labor force, though large, wasn't just about numbers. It was about the skill and dedication that each worker brought to the project. Some were specialists, honing their craft over years, while others were general laborers who worked tirelessly to transport and lift stones. But despite their different roles, they all shared the same goal: to build something that would endure for centuries. The workers would spend hours each day moving and shaping stone, and while the work was often grueling, there was a sense of pride in what they were building. Every stone set into place was a victory, and the progress they made each day was a small triumph. This sense of accomplishment, though quiet and steady, drove them forward. The workers knew that their labor would be remembered long after they were gone. In many ways, their work was a test of endurance. These builders would work under the scorching sun, day after day, sometimes in harsh conditions, but they didn't just build with their hands, they built with their hearts. The commitment they put into each task, no matter how small, is what allowed these monumental structures to stand the test of time. It's also worth noting that these workers weren't just laborers. They were part of a larger social structure. They were organized in teams, each team having a specific task to accomplish. The coordination between these teams was essential for the success of the project. It was this structure, this sense of unity, that allowed them to move the massive stones and create intricate carvings without the advanced machinery we have today. The work, though physically demanding, was not done in silence. The sounds of the workers lifting, pulling, chiseling wood have created a steady hum of activity. But in the midst of this labor, there was also room for connection. Workers would exchange stories, share experiences, and collaborate on the tasks at hand. The quiet camaraderie among the workers was as important as the tools they used. While the workers had no advanced technology, they did have something equally powerful: knowledge. The engineers and architects overseeing the construction understood how to harness the power of basic tools and methods. The workers were not just moving stones, they were following detailed plans that required precision and expertise. Each movement, every decision, was made with an understanding of how it would contribute to the final structure. This knowledge wasn't limited to the elite workers alone. The laborers, too, knew the importance of their role. They understood that every piece of stone they moved, every line they carved, was a part of something much larger. They knew that they were creating a monument that would last for generations, and this gave their work a deeper sense of meaning. As the workers continued their labor, the site began to take shape. Slowly but surely, the great structures they were building started to emerge from the ground. The pyramids, temples, and ziggurats that would one day become world-renowned monuments were being formed. One stone at a time, through the efforts of thousands of workers. When the work was finished, the builders would step back and look at what they had accomplished. It wasn't just a pile of stones, it was a masterpiece. It stood as a testament to their labor, their skill, and their unwavering dedication. And though the workers may not have seen the full scope of what they had built, their efforts ensured that these structures would be admired by generations to come. In the end, the true power of labor and manpower lies not in the tools used, but in the human spirit behind the work. The ancient builders showed us that with patience, cooperation, and determination, even the most impossible tasks can be accomplished. Their legacy lives on in the structures they built, but also in the lesson they impart, that the power of human effort working together is limitless. The pyramids of Egypt stand as one of the greatest accomplishments of human history. These massive structures were not only feats of engineering but also acts of sheer determination and patience. The process of building the pyramids was long, methodical, and often exhausting, but every step was taken with precision and care. Imagine, for a moment, standing at the base of a pyramid as it slowly takes shape, each stone placed with purpose, each worker contributing to the monumental task. The first challenge for the builders was sourcing the materials. The primary material used for the construction of the pyramids was limestone, a soft, easily carved stone. These stones were quarried near the pyramid site, but the challenge wasn't just getting the stone. It was moving the massive blocks from the quarries to the pyramid site. Without modern cranes, the workers used simple yet effective tools like sledges and rollers to transport the stones across the desert. It wasn't a quick process, but it was done with care and teamwork. Once the stones were at the site, the workers faced the challenge of positioning them at great heights. Without cranes or modern equipment, the ancient Egyptians built ramps to lift the stones. Imagine the workers constructing these ramps, a slow but steady process that would eventually allow them to move stones up to the higher levels of the pyramid. Each block had to be placed precisely, and it took time, patience, and a deep understanding of the task at hand. The ramps were built gradually, winding up the pyramid, allowing the workers to drag or push the stones higher and higher. As the pyramid grew taller, the ramps grew steeper, making the task even more difficult. Yet the workers continued, inch by inch, each stone carefully placed, each ramp meticulously constructed. There was no rush. The process was deliberate, almost meditative, as each day saw another stone placed in its rightful spot. One thing that set the Egyptians apart in their construction methods was their incredible understanding of mathematics. The alignment of the pyramids with the stars, the precision of each stone's placement, all required knowledge that went beyond simple labor. The workers didn't just move stones. They followed detailed plans, working together to ensure that each piece fit perfectly into the larger structure. The workers' patience and skill were essential, and without them, the pyramids could never have been built with such precision. As the pyramid rose higher, the workers would often work in teams, passing stones from one person to the next. These stones could weigh several tons, but with the use of ropes, wooden sledges, and careful coordination, they were moved into position. The workers' physical strength was crucial, but their unity, their ability to work together seamlessly, was what allowed them to accomplish such a monumental task. Throughout the construction process, the workers would face challenges, whether fatigue and the sheer physical demand of moving heavy stones. Yet, the workers pushed forward day by day. Their dedication was unwavering, their focus unshaken by the challenges they faced. They knew the importance of the work they were doing, and that knowledge drove them to continue, no matter how difficult the task might seem. It's important to note that the workers who built the pyramids were not slaves, as some might believe. Many of them were skilled laborers who were paid for their work. The Egyptians understood the value of their workforce, and those who worked on the pyramids took pride in their craft. They were not just building a tomb for a pharaoh. They were building a monument to human achievement, a testament to the power of cooperation and determination. The construction of the pyramids wasn't just a physical feat, it was a mental one as well. The workers had to stay focused, working day after day, making sure that each stone was placed exactly where it needed to be. There were no shortcuts, no quick fixes. Every action was deliberate, every decision made with careful thought. The workers knew that even the smallest mistake could have a huge impact on the final structure. As the pyramid slowly took shape, the workers were able to see the results of their hard work. The sense of accomplishment they felt must have been overwhelming as they watched the structure rise higher and higher, stone by stone. There was a quiet satisfaction in knowing that they were part of something so monumental, something that would last for thousands of years. And though the work was difficult, there was also a calm rhythm to it. A rhythm that allowed the builders to keep going, day after day, without losing focus. As the construction of the pyramid progressed, the workers continued to build not just with their hands, but with their hearts. Each stone placed was a piece of the greater whole, and the workers knew that they were creating something extraordinary. The teamwork involved in such a massive project was immense. Imagine hundreds of people working together, each playing their part, making sure that every block fit perfectly into place. There was no rush, just a steady, unbroken rhythm of labor that continued day after day. The The process of placing the final stones at the top of the pyramid was a remarkable moment in the construction. These last blocks were carefully lifted into place, bringing the pyramid to its final shape. As the workers stepped back, they could see the result of their long and steady efforts, an enormous structure rising from the ground, standing tall against the horizon. It wasn't just a building. It was a symbol of human achievement, of what can be accomplished when people work together with patience and precision. The pyramid, once completed, was not just a tomb for the pharaoh. It was a monument to the labor of those who had built it, a testament to their strength, skill, and determination. The structure was designed to last for thousands of years, and the workers knew that their efforts would be remembered long after their lifetimes. In a way, they were building not only for the pharaoh but for all of humanity, creating something that would stand the test of time. When we look at the pyramids today, it's hard to imagine the labor, the precision, and the effort it took to build them. The sheer size of the stones, the exacting alignment of each block, these things were not achieved by chance. The ancient builders relied on their deep understanding of geometry, astronomy, and engineering to make sure everything fit together perfectly. Every stone was placed with care, and every part of the pyramid had a purpose. One of the most impressive aspects of pyramid construction was the alignment of the stones. The Egyptians used simple tools like plumb bobs and leveling instruments to ensure that the stones were perfectly aligned. The precision required was extraordinary, and it speaks to the skill of the workers and the engineers who oversaw the construction. The workers didn't just build in a straight line, they created an entire structure with a deep sense of balance and harmony. As the pyramid began to take its final shape, the workers worked with renewed focus, knowing that they were close to completing their task. The last stones were set into place, and the pyramid stood tall, a monument to human perseverance. But it wasn't just the stone that made the pyramid remarkable. It was the effort behind it. It was the quiet, steady labor of thousands of workers, each one contributing to something much larger than themselves. The workers were not just physically strong, but mentally resilient as well. They faced countless challenges, heat, fatigue, and the sheer scale of the project, but they never lost sight of their goal. There were moments of exhaustion, surely, but there was also a deep sense of purpose. They knew that their work was important, and this belief kept them going day after day, despite the hardships they faced. Even after the construction of the pyramid was complete, the workers' labor did not end. The pyramid needed to be decorated and finished. The workers would carve intricate designs and engravings, some of which told stories of the pharaoh's reign. These decorations weren't just for show, they were an integral part of the pyramid, contributing to the monument's purpose and meaning. And just like the rest of the construction, the work was done with care and precision. The final result was a pyramid that was not just a tomb, but a piece of art, built with the hands of many. It stood as a symbol of the pharaoh's power, but it also stood as a tribute to the laborers who made it possible. Without the efforts of those who moved the stones, carved the details, and worked tirelessly for years, the pyramid would not have been the awe-inspiring structure it became. The pyramid was as much a testament to human cooperation as it was to the greatness of the pharaoh. The pyramid was completed, but the work of the builders didn't end there. It became a monument to the collective effort of all those who contributed. The legacy of the builders lives on in the pyramid itself, as a reminder that the greatest feats are accomplished when people come together to work toward a common goal. And just like the pyramid, their efforts will stand the test of time, a tribute to patience, precision, and the power of human perseverance. In ancient Mesopotamia, the process of construction was very different from what we see in Egypt. The materials they used were less durable than stone, but they were more abundant. Instead of limestone, the Mesopotamians turned to mudbrick, a mixture of clay, water, and straw. These bricks, once dried in the sun, were used to build everything from homes to temples and ziggurats. While the process of creating mudbrick was simple, it was incredibly labor-intensive and required a great deal of patience. The first step in building with mudbrick was collecting the raw materials. The clay was gathered from riverbeds, where it could be easily mixed with water and straw to create a thick, moldable paste. This paste was then poured into wooden molds, forming the bricks. Once the bricks were shaped, they were laid out in the sun to dry. The workers would wait for days as the bricks hardened, the sun's heat doing the job of curing them. Imagine the workers carefully placing the bricks on the drying grounds, making sure they were spaced out evenly to catch the sun. There was a quiet rhythm to this process as the bricks slowly hardened under the heat. It wasn't a fast process, but it was steady. The bricks would then be transported to the construction site, where they would be used to build the walls of the city or the towering ziggurats that dominated the skyline. Building with mudbrick required more than just the skill to make the bricks. The builders needed to understand how to stack them, how to build the structure so it would stand tall and steady. The mudbrick buildings were often made with thick walls to support the weight of the upper levels. Imagine the soft thud of bricks being set into place, the quiet murmur of workers as they worked together to create these massive structures. The ziggurats, in particular, were masterpieces of Mesopotamian architecture. These stepped pyramids, with their towering height, were built to reach the heavens, a physical manifestation of the people's belief in their gods. The construction of a ziggurat was a slow, methodical process. Each level had to be built with care, and each brick had to fit precisely into place. The workers knew that the integrity of the whole structure depended on their patience and skill. One of the most fascinating aspects of mudbrick construction was the way the bricks were sometimes stamped. Some workers would press their hands into the wet mud to leave their mark on the brick. These handprints were not just signatures, they were part of a deeper connection to the work being done. They were a reminder that the workers themselves were an essential part of the process, creating something that would last long after they were gone. The construction of mudbrick buildings also required intricate planning. Builders would work together, laying the foundation, erecting the walls, and carefully placing each brick in position. The teamwork required was immense. Each worker had a specific task, but all were working toward the same goal. The effort of each individual was crucial to the success of the entire project. The strength of mudbrick construction lay in its simplicity. While stone may have been more durable, mudbrick offered a flexibility that stone did not. The bricks could be easily molded and shaped, allowing for a variety of architectural designs. The walls of the buildings could be thick and solid, providing shelter from the intense heat of the Mesopotamian climate. But it was the patience and skill of the workers that truly made these buildings stand the test of time. As the buildings rose, the workers could see the progress of their labor. The ziggurats, with their towering forms, became the focal point of Mesopotamian cities, places of worship, and centers of power. The workers who constructed these buildings were not just laying bricks, they were creating symbols of human achievement, physical manifestations of the Mesopotamian people's devotion, and their ability to work together toward a shared goal. When we look at these ancient mudbrick buildings today, we can see the result of careful planning and patient labor. The walls may have eroded over time, but the spirit of the workers who built them lives on. The ziggurats, though weathered by centuries of time, still stand as a testament to the power of human effort, teamwork, and the dedication required to turn simple materials into something monumental. The use of mudbrick, while simple, allowed for the creation of grand structures that were both functional and symbolic. These buildings, particularly the ziggurats, were not just for everyday use. They were symbols of the divine, designed to reach toward the heavens. The process of constructing these tall, stepped structures required careful planning and precision. Each level was built slowly and deliberately, with the workers knowing that each brick, no matter how small, contributed to something monumental. The construction of a ziggurat was more than just a technical achievement. It was also a spiritual one. The ziggurat, with its towering presence, was seen as a bridge between the earth and the gods. Each brick placed was a step toward that higher realm, and each level represented a closer connection to the divine. The workers, while focused on their labor, understood that their efforts were not just physical, but spiritual as well. They were building something that would stand for centuries, a testament to both human strength and devotion. The workers' patience was essential. The construction of these structures was slow, deliberate, and required repeated effort. No shortcuts could be taken. Each brick had to be carefully placed, and every level had to be supported with the utmost care. The workers didn't just build the ziggurats. They shaped their own legacy, one that would last through time, one that would echo across the millennia. The workers were not alone in their efforts. The community around the construction site was integral to its success. Families, workers, and engineers worked together, creating a system that ensured the labor moved smoothly. The support from the community made it possible to continue, even when the work felt overwhelming. It was a reminder that great things are built not only through physical labor, but also through the strength of collective effort. As the ziggurats rose, so did the importance of the workforce. These structures weren't just physical monuments. They were a reflection of the power and unity of the people who built them. The ziggurat's towering form was a tribute to the laborers who, though often anonymous, contributed their sweat and skill to the project. The physical labor of the workers was the foundation on which these monumental structures were built. The labor of the workers didn't go unnoticed. Though the names of many builders may be lost to history, their work remained. The ziggurats, once completed, became symbols of Mesopotamian civilization, monuments to human achievement and cooperation. The builders, through their patient and careful work, left a legacy that would be remembered for centuries to come. It wasn't just the ziggurats that stood tall, it was the spirit of the workers that endured. Building with mud brick was not just about creating a structure, it was about creating a piece of history. The workers weren't just laying bricks, they were shaping the future. The ziggurats were not just places of worship, but also places where human creativity and patience converged. Every stone laid, every brick set into place, was part of something much larger than the workers themselves. The ancient builders of Mesopotamia had a unique understanding of the materials they worked with. Mud brick was not just a building material. It was a reflection of the people's relationship with their environment. The use of mud and clay, abundant in the region, allowed for the construction of vast cities and towering structures. These buildings, though made of humble materials, stood as towering testaments to the ingenuity of those who built them. It's fascinating to think about the workers who, over time, became experts in their craft. The knowledge of mud brick construction was passed down through generations, from master builder to apprentice. This knowledge was not just about how to build with mud, but also about how to make the buildings last. The workers understood that the quality of the bricks, the alignment of the walls, and the care taken during construction were key to ensuring that these structures would stand for centuries. And so, the legacy of the Mesopotamian builders endures. The ziggurats they constructed still stand, weathered by time but still impressive in their scale. The buildings, made of mudbrick, serve as a reminder of the dedication and patience of the workers who created them. It is through their labor, their skill, and their patience that we are able to look back and marvel at these incredible structures, knowing that the effort of generations lives on through the bricks they laid. The wheel, one of the most fundamental inventions in human history, played an integral role in shaping ancient civilizations. It's almost hard to imagine a world without it, yet, for most of human history, the wheel was not in use. Early civilizations, before its introduction, relied on simple tools and methods to accomplish their tasks. The absence of modern technology didn't hinder their ability to build complex societies, but it did challenge them in ways we can barely comprehend. As we delve into the role of the wheel, imagine how life must have been before its transportation was slow and difficult, and the moving of heavy objects required great manpower. When the wheel was finally discovered, it revolutionized how people interacted with their environment. It didn't appear suddenly, but was a gradual development, starting with simple clay discs used for pottery. These early wheels were not for transportation, but served as a tool for shaping clay. Over time, this technology evolved, and it became clear that the wheel could be adapted to transport and movement. The first wheels used for travel, much like the ones seen in Mesopotamian cultures, were likely solid wooden discs, offering little comfort but great utility. The first use of the wheel for transportation didn't happen overnight. It took centuries of experimentation, refinement, and ingenuity. Ancient people were limited by the resources they had. Wood, stone, and simple metals were the primary materials available to them, and these limitations required creative thinking. As early as 3500 BCE, the Sumerians in Mesopotamia were among the first to use wheels for carts. These early wheels were attached to carts to help carry goods, but they were nothing like the smooth, reliable wheels we know today. The challenges they faced were numerous. The terrain was often rugged, and the carts were heavy. It wasn't just about creating a functional wheel, but also about adapting it to the environment. The people of ancient Mesopotamia, for example, had to design wheels that could handle the rough and unpredictable conditions of the land. These wheels were not perfect, but they marked the beginning of a new era in transportation, laying the groundwork for the more advanced vehicles to come. It wasn't just the wheel that made these innovations possible, but also the ingenuity behind how they adapted it. Ancient civilizations had to think about balance, materials, and function all at once. In Egypt, for example, the invention of the wheel was crucial in building massive structures like the pyramids. Workers would use simple wooden sleds and rollers, and when combined with the wheel, the transportation of heavy stones became a little more manageable. Despite its utility, the wheel wasn't immediately widespread. It took time for other regions to adopt this new technology. Ancient India, for example, didn't fully embrace the wheel until around 2000 BCE. Similarly, in other parts of the world, such as the Americas, wheels were not used for transportation until much later. Even though the wheel had been invented in other parts of the world, the wheel didn't just revolutionize transportation, it also impacted agriculture. In ancient Mesopotamia, for instance, carts pulled by oxen or donkeys were essential for moving crops. This allowed societies to grow and distribute food on a larger scale. With the wheel, transportation became quicker and trade flourished. It allowed goods to travel further and faster, opening new markets and encouraging economic growth. But the wheel wasn't just for transporting goods. It also found its place in warfare. Chariots, for example, were used in battle as early as the 2nd millennium BCE. These vehicles, pulled by horses or oxen, gave ancient armies a significant advantage, offering speed and mobility. They could carry soldiers into battle quickly, and even the threat of chariot warfare was enough to intimidate enemy forces. As the wheel evolved, so did its design. Early wheels were solid, heavy, and uncomfortable, but over time, they became lighter and more efficient. In the ancient world, craftsmen began to understand the importance of spokes in wheel design, which made them lighter without compromising strength. These innovations continued throughout history, culminating in the smooth, durable wheels we use today. Even though ancient civilizations did not have the advanced tools and technologies we take for granted today, they managed to create the foundations of modern engineering. Their ability to adapt and use simple tools to solve complex problems is a testament to human creativity and resilience. It's amazing to think about how something as simple as the wheel could have such a profound impact on the course of history. As we continue to explore the role of the wheel, it's important to note that its influence didn't just stop at transportation or warfare. It played a key role in the development of industry. In ancient civilizations, the wheel was used in various forms of machinery, such as the potter's wheel and water wheels, which were crucial for grinding grain and other tasks. These early machines helped boost production and made everyday life easier. The use of water wheels, in particular, was a breakthrough. Ancient civilizations, such as those in Greece and Rome, were able to harness the power of flowing water to turn wheels that would power mills and other mechanical devices. This technology not only increased productivity, but also marked the beginning of early industrialization, long before the term industry was ever coined. Even in the context of agriculture, the wheel played a significant role. In ancient times, wheelbarrows were introduced as a means to carry heavy loads of crops, materials, and tools. This simple yet effective invention allowed laborers to move more efficiently and saved time and energy. A wheelbarrow, with its single wheel, was much easier to maneuver than a cart and could carry loads that would otherwise be too difficult to manage. In the realms of art and architecture, the wheel's impact is undeniable. As civilizations grew and developed, the wheel enabled the construction of intricate designs and structures. Builders and architects could transport large quantities of stone, clay, and other materials, facilitating the creation of buildings, temples, and monuments that would stand the test of time. But even with the tremendous impact the wheel had on these civilizations, it was not without its challenges. The wheel was not universally available, and in some regions, it was not adopted for centuries after its invention. In the Americas, for example, the indigenous peoples did not develop the wheel for transportation, likely due to their different environmental and cultural needs. Despite this, they created sophisticated societies and technologies. The introduction of the wheel was a slow process, and its widespread use varied across different civilizations. In some places, the wheel was used primarily in agricultural contexts, while in others, it played a central role in trade and transportation. But wherever it appeared, it was a game-changer. The wheel allowed societies to move and grow in ways they had never been able to before. As time passed, civilizations began to refine the wheel, adapting it to suit their unique needs. The addition of spokes, the refinement of materials, and the development of better methods for attaching the wheel to carts and chariots all contributed to its evolution. These advances not only improved the functionality of the wheel, but also made it an essential part of daily life for ancient people. Looking back, It's easy to see how the wheel paved the way for so many of the advances that followed. Without the wheel, the development of cities, the rise of trade, and even the construction of monumental structures would have been much more difficult, if not impossible. The wheel, in its simplicity, had an enduring impact on human progress. Even today, we can trace the legacy of the ancient wheel in our modern world. From the simplest carts to the most advanced vehicles, the principles behind the wheel are still in use. While we now have technology that is far more advanced than what ancient civilizations could have imagined, the wheel remains a symbol of human innovation and ingenuity. So, the next time you see a wheel, whether it's on a bicycle, car, or machine, remember that it all started thousands of years ago with a simple idea and a lot of hard work. The ancient wheel was more than just a tool. It was a testament to human creativity, persistence, and the desire to make life a little bit easier. And as we sleep, we can reflect on how far we've come, thanks to the humble wheel. The Romans, known for their military prowess, were also brilliant engineers, and their mastery of construction techniques played a significant role in shaping the ancient world. They created an architectural legacy that still influences modern construction today. One of the most remarkable things about Roman construction was their ability to build on a grand scale using the technology available to them. Unlike other ancient civilizations, the Romans were not content with just building simple structures. They sought to create lasting monuments that would stand the test of time. This ambition led to the development of new construction techniques, many of which are still used today. One of the key innovations in Roman construction was the use of concrete. The Romans were among the first to mix volcanic ash with lime and water to create a durable material that could withstand the elements. This concrete, known as Roman concrete, was stronger and more versatile than anything that came before it. Roman concrete allowed the construction of large, durable structures that could be built quickly and efficiently. It was used to create everything from aqueducts to temples and amphitheaters. The use of concrete also meant that the Romans could build structures with more complex shapes and designs than ever before. The Pantheon in Rome is a perfect example of Roman construction mastery. Completed around 126 AD, the Pantheon's massive dome is still the largest unreinforced concrete dome in the world. It was an engineering feat that pushed the boundaries of what was possible at the time. To construct such a massive dome, the Romans used a method called coffering. This involved creating recessed panels in the dome's surface, which reduced the weight of the structure without compromising its strength. This technique was a major innovation in Roman architecture. Roman builders also made use of arches, which were essential to their construction projects. Arches allowed them to create larger, more stable openings in buildings and bridges. The use of arches became a hallmark of Roman architecture, enabling the construction of impressive structures like aqueducts and colosseums. The Romans understood that to build on a grand scale, they needed a solid foundation. They were experts at creating durable foundations that could support the weight of massive buildings. This expertise was especially important in the construction of aqueducts, which had to carry water over long distances without collapsing. One of the most famous examples of Roman engineering is the aqueduct system. Romans built aqueducts to bring fresh water to their cities, allowing urban centers to flourish. These aqueducts were marvels of engineering, with some stretching for miles across the countryside, bringing water from distant sources to the heart of Rome. The aqueducts were not just functional, they were also a symbol of Roman engineering prowess. The Romans were able to design these aqueducts with a slight slope, allowing water to flow naturally by gravity. This precision engineering ensured a reliable and consistent water supply for the empire. The Romans were also masters of road construction. Their network of roads stretched across the empire, allowing their legions to move quickly and efficiently from one place to another. Roman roads were built to last, with layers of materials carefully laid to ensure durability and drainage. Roman roads were not just a means of transportation, they were a testament to Roman engineering skill. The roads were straight, efficient, and designed to handle the weight of heavy traffic, from military legions to trade caravans. Many of these roads still exist today, showcasing the Romans' commitment to quality construction. Another significant achievement of Roman construction was the development of public baths. Roman baths were large, luxurious complexes that included hot, warm, and cold pools, along with saunas and exercise rooms. These baths were not only places for bathing, but also served as social hubs where people could gather, relax, and discuss matters of the day. The Romans were also pioneers in the use of the vault, a curved structure that supported the roof of a building. By combining the arch and the vault, Roman engineers were able to create vast, open spaces within buildings, making structures like basilicas and bathhouses possible. This was a major leap forward in architectural design. The Colosseum, perhaps the most famous Roman structure, is a perfect example of Roman mastery in construction. Built between 70 and 80 AD, the Colosseum was designed to hold up to 80,000 spectators. It was an engineering marvel, with an intricate system of entrances and exits, allowing the audience to enter and exit quickly and safely. The Colosseum was also a prime example of the Roman use of concrete, arches, and vaults. The building's elliptical design allowed for better visibility and acoustics, making it the perfect venue for the gladiatorial games and other public spectacles that were a central part of Roman life. Roman construction techniques were not limited to large public structures. They also mastered the art of building private homes, especially in the cities. Roman homes, or domus, were often equipped with courtyards, gardens, and intricate frescoes, showcasing the Romans' attention to detail and craftsmanship. The Romans also excelled in creating underground structures, such as catacombs. These underground burial sites were not just functional but also beautiful, with elaborate carvings and frescoes adorning the walls. The catacombs serve as a reminder of the Romans' ability to build in challenging environments. Roman construction was not just about the materials or the techniques. It was about creating lasting legacies. The structures they built were not just functional. They were designed to endure for centuries. Many of these buildings are still standing today, a testament to the Romans' engineering genius and their commitment to creating a lasting impact on the world. So, as we drift off to sleep, we can reflect on the Roman legacy in construction. Their innovations in architecture, engineering, and design continue to influence the way we build today, reminding us of the enduring power of human ingenuity and craftsmanship. The ancient Egyptians are often remembered for their monumental achievements, such as the construction of the Great Pyramids. These structures, which have stood the test of time for thousands of years, continue to astound historians and engineers alike. The sheer scale of the pyramids, built with millions of stones, each weighing anywhere from 2 to 15 tons, seems almost impossible to modern minds. However, the Egyptians didn't have the advanced machinery we use today. They relied on a combination of human ingenuity and simple yet effective tools to complete such massive projects. One of the key techniques they employed was the use of ramps. These ramps were critical in the transportation and placement of the large stone blocks that formed the pyramids. Without these ramps, it would have been nearly impossible to build such grand structures. Ramps allowed the Egyptians to move these heavy stones over long distances, lifting them higher and higher as the pyramid grew taller. The construction of the pyramids was a complex and challenging task, but the use of ramps and other techniques allowed the Egyptians to accomplish what many believed was unachievable. When we think about the building of the pyramids, it's easy to imagine the incredible effort required. The pyramids, particularly the Great Pyramid of Giza, were constructed over several decades, and the sheer scale of the stones used to create them is staggering. However, unlike modern construction projects that use cranes and other advanced technology, the Egyptians had to rely on simple yet effective engineering methods. One of the most important techniques they used was the ramp. Ramps allowed workers to move massive stones, some weighing more than several tons, from the quarries to the construction site. These ramps were crucial in helping the Egyptians complete their monumental buildings. While the exact type of ramps used by the Egyptians is still debated, most experts agree that ramps played a central role in the construction process. These ramps helped the workers move the stones up to the higher levels of the pyramid as it rose. The ramps were not just a matter of convenience, they were essential to the entire construction process. The Egyptians used a variety of ramp designs to help transport the massive stone blocks. One of the most famous ramp designs is the straight or linear ramp. This type of ramp was used to transport stones up to the higher levels of the pyramid. It was a simple but effective design, with a long, gradual slope that allowed workers to push or pull the stones up with the help of sleds or ropes. The straight ramp was the easiest design to construct, as it followed the natural slope of the land and didn't require complex engineering. However, as the pyramid grew taller, the ramp would need to be extended, and the slope would become steeper. This created challenges, as the effort required to move stones up the ramp would increase with its height. Despite these challenges, the straight ramp was still used in many cases. It was an essential tool for the Egyptians in their quest to build their grand pyramids. As the pyramid grew taller, the challenge of moving stones up the straight ramp became more difficult. The Egyptians solved this problem by developing a spiral ramp, which wound around the pyramid as it rose. The spiral ramp design was more efficient in some ways because it allowed the workers to move the stones up without needing to extend the ramp further and further out. Instead of having a ramp that extended far from the base of the pyramid, the spiral ramp allowed workers to move stones upward in a continuous spiral, keeping the effort of lifting and transporting stones more manageable. This design also allowed for better use of space and resources, making the process of building the pyramid more efficient. While it's difficult to know exactly how these ramps were constructed, the spiral design is one of the most widely accepted theories about how the Egyptians managed to move stones to the higher levels of the pyramid. In addition to ramps, the ancient Egyptians also used levers, one of the simplest machines in history, to help lift and move the massive stones. Levers were crucial for lifting stones off the ground and into position. A lever is a rigid beam that pivots on a fulcrum. By applying force at one end of the beam, the other end lifts an object. The ancient Egyptians used this principle to move the stones into place. By placing a fulcrum under one end of a stone and applying force to the other end, they could lift the stone high enough to position it correctly. The use of levers made the process of moving and placing stones much easier, especially when combined with other tools like ramps. The leverage provided by the lever allowed workers to move heavy blocks more efficiently, which was critical in the construction of the pyramids. Levers were not just used to lift stones, they also played a role in positioning them with precision. The Egyptians used levers in combination with other techniques to move the stones into place. The placement of each stone was crucial to the overall structure of the pyramid, and the Egyptians had to ensure that each block was positioned correctly. Levers allowed them to make fine adjustments to the position of the stones. This was particularly important as the pyramid's construction progressed and the structure became taller and more complex. The ability to make these precise adjustments ensured that the pyramid's alignment remained accurate and that each stone fit into place perfectly. Without the use of levers, the task of positioning the stones would have been far more difficult and less precise. The Egyptians were not only skilled in the use of ramps and levers, but they also employed a system of counterweights to assist in moving heavy stones. By attaching a counterweight to one end of the lever, the Egyptians could lift heavier stones with less effort. The counterweight would provide additional force, making it easier to move the stone into place. This technique, combined with the use of ramps and levers, allowed the Egyptians to build massive structures like the pyramids with remarkable efficiency. It also helped reduce the physical strain on workers, as the counterweight would offset the weight of the stone. This system of counterweights, along with ramps and levers, was a crucial part of the ancient Egyptians' construction methods. The use of counterweights in combination with ramps and levers created a system of tools that allowed the Egyptians to complete their monumental tasks. By applying these techniques, the Egyptians were able to move and position massive stones with precision and efficiency. The combination of ramps, levers, and counterweights allowed them to accomplish what seemed like an impossible task. The construction of the pyramids was one of the most impressive engineering feats of the ancient world, and these tools were crucial to its success. The methods used by the Egyptians in their construction projects are a testament to their ingenuity and resourcefulness. These techniques have been studied by engineers for centuries and continue to inspire modern construction practices. Despite the limitations of their technology, the Egyptians were able to construct the pyramids with a level of precision that still baffles experts today. The use of ramps, levers, and counterweights allowed them to build these colossal structures without the advanced machinery we have today. The techniques they developed have stood the test of time, and the pyramids remain one of the most enduring symbols of ancient Egyptian civilization. As we reflect on these remarkable feats of engineering, we can appreciate the creativity and resourcefulness of the ancient Egyptians, whose methods still resonate with modern builders. The tools and methods used by the ancient Egyptians have been analyzed and re-examined for centuries, offering valuable insights into their engineering capabilities. These ancient techniques were not just about moving stones, but about the application of physics, mathematics, and design principles that would shape modern construction practices. By studying how they were able to move massive stone blocks and position them with such precision, we can gain a deeper understanding of the skills and knowledge of the Egyptians. Their ingenuity was critical to their success in building the pyramids, and their methods continue to inspire and influence the field of construction to this day. The pyramids themselves stand as a testament to what can be achieved with clever problem-solving and simple tools when combined with a vision of greatness. The success of Egyptian construction techniques went beyond the use of ramps and levers. The overall planning and organization were key elements in their monumental achievements. The construction of the pyramids was not only a physical challenge, but also a logistical one. The Egyptians had to manage large teams of workers, organize materials, and plan the construction process carefully. Workers were likely divided into specialized groups, each responsible for different tasks, from cutting and transporting stone to assembling the pyramid itself. This division of labor allowed the Egyptians to work efficiently and meet the demands of such a massive undertaking. Every phase of the pyramid's construction had to be meticulously planned, and the use of ramps and levers was just one part of the equation. The Egyptians' ability to coordinate these resources effectively shows the sophistication of their construction methods, which involved both engineering and strategic management. The workers who built the pyramids were not slaves, as commonly thought, but rather skilled laborers who were well organized and trained for their tasks. These laborers worked in teams and were housed in nearby workers' villages, where they were provided with food, water, and shelter. They were likely paid for their work, and their job was highly respected in Egyptian society. These workers used the very same tools and techniques that have fascinated engineers for centuries, including ramps, levers, and counterweights. The organized workforce, along with the innovative engineering methods, enabled the Egyptians to tackle the enormous task of constructing the pyramids. While the scale of the pyramids may seem insurmountable, it was the combination of skilled labor, efficient use of tools, and careful planning that allowed these grand structures to be built. Without such organization and dedication, these awe-inspiring monuments would not have been possible. Another important consideration in pyramid construction was the role of the material used to build the structures. The majority of the stone used in the construction of the Great Pyramid was limestone, which was cut from quarries near the site. However, the finer, more polished stones, often used for the outer casing, came from quarries further away. This required the transportation of these stones over greater distances, and ramps played a significant role in this. The Egyptians had to plan their quarrying and transport operations carefully, ensuring that the right materials were available at the right time. It's believed that the workers used sledges and wooden rollers to move the stones from the quarries to the construction site, and ramps would have been used to lift the stones to higher levels. The careful management of resources, including stone, labor, and tools, was a crucial factor in the successful completion of the pyramids. The use of ramps and levers also highlights the Egyptians' understanding of physics and mechanical advantage. While their technology was primitive by today's standards, they knew how to apply basic principles to achieve remarkable results. The ramp, for example, uses the mechanical advantage of a long incline to make lifting heavy objects easier. Similarly, the lever provides a mechanical advantage by allowing a small force applied to one end of a beam to lift a much larger weight at the other end. These principles of force and motion were understood and applied with great precision by the ancient Egyptians. By using these simple machines, they were able to construct the largest and most impressive structures of their time, relying on a deep understanding of how force, weight, and leverage work together. In addition to ramps and levers, the Egyptians also developed techniques for ensuring the precision and alignment of their structures. As the pyramid grew taller, it was critical to ensure that the stones were perfectly aligned and that the structure was level. The Egyptians used a system of sightlines and measurements to achieve this. For example, they may have used a form of leveling instrument, similar to the plumb bob, which would have allowed them to ensure vertical alignment. They also used ropes and other tools to ensure that the stones were placed with exact precision. The great accuracy achieved in the placement of the stones, particularly in the Great Pyramid of Giza, is still admired today, as the angles and dimensions of the pyramid are remarkably precise. The use of these alignment techniques speaks to the advanced engineering skills possessed by the Egyptians. The preservation of the pyramids, despite the passage of thousands of years, also speaks to the remarkable quality of Egyptian construction. The fact that many of the pyramids remain standing, even in the face of weathering, looting, and the erosion of time, is a testament to the durability of the materials and the expertise of the builders. The Egyptians understood the importance of durability when selecting building materials, using stone that could withstand the test of time. Furthermore, the design of the pyramids with their wide base and narrow top, helped distribute the weight evenly and ensured stability. This design allowed the pyramids to endure centuries of weathering, from sandstorms to heavy rains, without collapsing. The fact that these structures have lasted so long is a remarkable achievement and speaks to the engineering prowess of the ancient Egyptians. The methods used in pyramid construction also influenced other architectural projects in ancient Egypt. The knowledge gained from building the pyramids was likely applied to the construction of other monumental structures, including temples, obelisks, and tombs. The techniques for moving and placing heavy stones were used in many other projects, and the Egyptians continued to refine and improve these methods over time. Their engineering achievements were not just limited to the pyramids, but extended to nearly every aspect of their architecture. The principles of ramps, levers, and alignment were applied in the construction of other impressive structures that have survived to this day. The legacy of these techniques is evident in the many surviving monuments from ancient Egypt. The complexity and scale of pyramid construction had a significant impact on the development of Egyptian society. The construction of the pyramids was a massive undertaking that required resources from across the kingdom. It brought together a large workforce, skilled laborers, and engineers, all working toward the common goal of creating these monumental tombs. The effort to build the pyramids also helped to advance Egypt's economy and infrastructure. The transportation of materials, the management of workers, and the development of new technologies and techniques all contributed to the advancement of Egyptian society. Building the pyramids was not just about constructing a tomb for the pharaoh. It was about advancing Egypt's technological, social, and economic development. While the exact methods used to build the pyramids may never be fully understood, the evidence suggests that the Egyptians were far more advanced than previously thought. They possessed a deep understanding of engineering principles and had the ability to apply these principles in creative ways. By using tools like ramps, levers, and counterweights, the Egyptians were able to accomplish feats of engineering that continue to inspire awe to this day. These techniques, which seem simple by modern standards, allowed the Egyptians to construct massive, durable structures with remarkable precision. The pyramids and other great works of Egyptian architecture remain a testament to the ingenuity, resourcefulness, and skill of this ancient civilization. The tools and methods used by the ancient Egyptians have been analyzed and re-examined for centuries, offering valuable insights into their engineering capabilities. These ancient techniques were not just about moving stones, but about the application of physics, mathematics, and design principles that would shape modern construction practices. By studying how they were able to move massive stone blocks and position them with such precision, we can gain a deeper understanding of the skills and knowledge of the Egyptians. Their ingenuity was critical to their success in building the pyramids, and their methods continue to inspire and influence the field of construction to this day. The pyramids themselves stand as a testament to what can be achieved with clever problem-solving and simple tools when combined with a vision of greatness. Water, a vital resource for all life, has played an essential role throughout human history. In ancient civilizations, its significance was far more than just for drinking or agriculture. Water was also crucial for transportation, sanitation, and trade. The ancient Egyptians, for example, relied on the Nile River, which provided them with fertile soil and a reliable means of transport. The importance of water in their daily lives cannot be overstated. The Nile, which flows through Egypt, was the lifeblood of their civilization. Without it, the construction of monumental structures like the pyramids and the great temples would have been much more difficult, if not impossible. The river enabled trade, communication, and access to distant lands, while also supplying the water necessary for irrigation. The role of water in the ancient world was multifaceted, and it allowed civilizations like Egypt to thrive and grow. In addition to these basic needs, water also provided a spiritual significance for many ancient peoples, including the Egyptians. The Nile was considered sacred, and its annual flooding symbolized rebirth and renewal, ensuring the continuation of life. In ancient Egypt, the Nile River was a central feature of both the physical and cultural landscape. The river's annual flooding provided rich silt for agriculture, which allowed the civilization to grow. Farmers would plant crops after the floodwaters receded, and the soil would remain fertile for months. This predictable cycle meant that the Egyptians could cultivate a variety of crops, such as wheat, barley, and flax, which were essential for both food and economic trade. The floodwaters also helped to irrigate fields, ensuring that crops could be grown in regions far from the river. As a result, the Nile was more than just a source of water. It was a tool of productivity and prosperity. Without the river's regular flooding, Egypt's economy and society would have been much less stable. Water from the Nile was also used for everyday tasks, like washing, drinking, and bathing. The ancient Egyptians developed systems to manage water use, including canals, wells, and reservoirs. These water management systems helped ensure a stable supply of water throughout the year, regardless of the floods. Water also played an important role in transportation in ancient Egypt. The Nile River was used as the primary route for transporting goods, people, and materials throughout the country. Ancient Egyptians built a vast network of boats and barges that could navigate the river, helping with the movement of goods from one region to another. This system was crucial for trade, as it allowed for the easy exchange of materials like stone, grain, and gold. The Nile served as the highway of ancient Egypt, enabling merchants to transport their goods to and from the interior of the country and beyond. It was a more efficient and cost-effective way of moving goods than land transport. In fact, many of the massive stones used in pyramid construction were transported from quarries along the Nile. Water was also used to transport workers to various construction sites, especially for projects that took place near the river. The central role of the Nile in Egyptian transportation cannot be underestimated, as it allowed for the growth of cities, the exchange of goods, and the exchange of goods, and the advancement of goods, and the advancement of advancement is bevites. And Alepswith with them, where I bill and poor, Sibu and Sipor, I will love you, will I you will you will you will can we will Beyond irrigation and transportation, the Egyptians also relied on water for sanitation. The Nile was essential for cleaning and maintaining public health. Ancient Egyptian cities were often situated along the river, and water from the Nile was used for washing, cooking, and drinking. Public bathhouses were common in larger cities, where people could wash and cleanse themselves after work. In addition to personal hygiene, the Nile's water was used for washing clothes, as well as for ritual purification in temples and religious ceremonies. As the Egyptians began to grow more urbanized, they developed early systems for managing wastewater, helping to keep their cities cleaner and healthier. The use of water for hygiene and sanitation was vital for preventing disease, and the Egyptians understood its importance. While their water management techniques were not as advanced as modern systems. They were innovative for their time, and their use of water played a key role in the health and well-being of their society. The Egyptians were pioneers in the development of water management systems. They built an extensive network of canals to manage the flow of water from the Nile and distribute it to various parts of the country. These canals were used to irrigate fields, transport goods, and provide water to growing cities. The Egyptians used simple but effective engineering techniques to construct these canals, which helped control the flow of water and prevent flooding. In addition to canals, the Egyptians also built reservoirs to store water during times of flood, ensuring a steady supply during the dry season. Wells were dug to access underground water, particularly in areas far from the Nile. These early water management systems were essential for the survival of ancient Egyptian society, allowing them to thrive in a region that was otherwise arid and inhospitable. The knowledge and skills the Egyptians developed in managing water were passed down to future generations and influenced the development of other civilizations, including the Romans. Water played a central role in Egyptian religion, where the Nile was seen as a divine force. The river was considered sacred by the Egyptians, and many of their gods and goddesses were associated with water and fertility. The goddess Hopi, for example, was the personification of the annual flooding of the Nile, and she was worshipped as a bringer of abundance and prosperity. The river itself was thought to be a divine gift, and the flooding was seen as a manifestation of the god's blessing. The Egyptians believed that the floodwaters brought life and renewal to the land, and they celebrated this event with rituals and festivals. The significance of water in Egyptian religion was reflected in their art, architecture, and daily life. The temples, tombs, and monuments built by the Egyptians often featured water symbolism, reflecting the central role that water played in their culture. Even in death, the Egyptians believed that water was essential, as evidenced by the elaborate tombs and burial practices that involved the use of water for purification and the afterlife. Water also had a direct connection to Egyptian agriculture. The Nile's flooding and irrigation systems made farming possible in the otherwise dry Egyptian desert. Crops such as wheat and barley, essential for the ancient Egyptian diet, flourished in the fertile soil left behind by the floodwaters. The ability to grow crops reliably allowed Egypt to become one of the most prosperous and powerful civilizations in the ancient world. Water's role in agriculture extended beyond just irrigation. It also played a role in the rituals and ceremonies related to farming. The annual flooding of the Nile was seen as a sign of divine favor, and it was an important part of agricultural cycles. Farmers prayed to the gods for the right amount of water to ensure a bountiful harvest, and the Nile's waters were revered for their ability to provide for the people. Without the Nile, Egypt's agriculture would have been nearly impossible, and the civilization would not have flourished as it did. Water's role in Egyptian society went beyond the practical. It was also central to the Egyptian worldview. The Nile represented the concept of life and death, and it was often depicted as a boundary between the living and the dead. Egyptians believed that the soul had to cross the Nile to reach the afterlife, and their tombs often included images of boats crossing the river. The river itself was considered to be a journey through the unknown, representing both the dangers and rewards of the afterlife. As a result, water was a powerful symbol of both renewal and transition. In the spiritual sense, the Nile was a dividing line between the world of the living and the realm of the dead, where the deceased would be judged and reborn. This belief in water as a transition point influenced Egyptian burial practices, including the design of tombs, the use of boat-shaped coffins, and the creation of canals and paths that led to the afterlife. Water was also central to Egyptian architecture, particularly in the construction of monumental buildings and structures. The ancient Egyptians used water to transport materials like stone, mud bricks, and other supplies to their construction sites. In some cases, canals and water-filled channels were dug to allow materials to be moved more easily across long distances. The use of water in transportation also helped to ensure that building projects could progress smoothly even when the terrain was challenging. Water was essential for building temples, tombs, and other significant structures. These buildings often had water features, such as pools and fountains, which served both practical and symbolic purposes. The water not only provided a cooling effect, but also represented the connection between the earthly realm and the divine. The use of water in Egyptian architecture was not only about functionality, but also about aligning their physical creations with spiritual beliefs. In addition to agriculture, water played a significant role in the establishment of early Egyptian cities. Ancient Egyptian cities were often situated along the banks of the Nile, where access to water was not only necessary for survival, but also central to the functioning of urban life. The proximity to water allowed people to create bustling marketplaces, communities, and workshops. The river's steady supply of fresh water also made it easier to maintain a healthy population, as clean water was available for cooking, drinking, and sanitation. Ancient Egyptian cities, especially those located near the Nile Delta, were often built around the river's flow, and the waterway became the lifeblood of the community. Without the Nile, these early cities would not have developed as quickly or become the vibrant centers of trade and culture that they did. As Egypt's population grew, urbanization increased, and the river's role in the development of cities became even more critical. The use of water to support growing cities also led to advances in engineering, as the Egyptians designed new ways to control and manage water in urban spaces. One of the most impressive feats of water engineering in ancient Egypt was the construction of the great canals that connected various parts of the country. These canals were essential for both agricultural and trade purposes, helping to irrigate fields and providing a reliable route for the transportation of goods. Some of these canals were linked to the Nile itself, while others were man-made channels that brought water from distant sources. The construction of these canals was a massive undertaking, requiring skilled labor and sophisticated engineering techniques. The canals helped to ensure that even areas far from the Nile could benefit from the river's waters, making agriculture possible in regions that would otherwise have been arid. The canals also played a key role in trade by providing a way for goods to be moved across the country more efficiently. Many of these canals are still in use today, a testament to the ingenuity and foresight of the ancient Egyptians. The development of these complex water systems was vital for Egypt's growth and prosperity, as it enabled the civilization to support large cities, advanced agriculture, and extensive trade networks. Water's role in ancient Egypt was also critical in supporting the agricultural workforce. Large-scale farming along the Nile required a vast number of laborers who would use the river's waters to irrigate the land. These workers often lived in nearby villages and worked in fields that stretched across vast areas of land. To ensure the success of the crops, the Egyptians had to rely on an efficient system for distributing water. In addition to using the river's natural flooding, they developed irrigation systems, such as the use of shadoofs, a hand-operated device used to raise water from a well, and other tools to draw water from canals and wells. These irrigation methods ensured that the crops were adequately watered, even during times when the river was not flooding. This system allowed for the cultivation of a wide variety of crops, which in turn provided food for both the workers and the larger population. The river's water was therefore not just a source of life for the land, but also for the people who worked to maintain Egypt's agricultural prowess. The Egyptians' understanding of water and its cycles was advanced for their time. The flooding of the Nile was a predictable event, and the Egyptians used this knowledge to develop systems for managing water that were ahead of their time. They closely monitored the levels of the river and made adjustments to their irrigation systems accordingly. The ancient Egyptians also used various techniques to ensure that the water was distributed evenly across fields, which helped to maximize crop yields. The predictable flooding of the Nile was crucial for maintaining stable agricultural production, and the Egyptians knew that the success of their civilization depended on it. Because the river's flooding was so essential, the Egyptians celebrated it with various religious rituals, hoping to honor the gods and ensure that the floodwaters would come on time each year. These rituals reflected the deep connection the Egyptians had with water, both in a practical sense and a spiritual one. The flooding of the Nile was not just a natural event, but a deeply spiritual one, linked to their beliefs about fertility, renewal, and the power of the gods. Water also played a central role in Egyptian burial practices. The belief in the afterlife was a cornerstone of Egyptian culture, and the river's symbolism played a large part in the burial process. For example, tombs were often built near the Nile, and many pharaohs were buried along its banks. The river was thought to be a route for the soul to reach the afterlife, and funerary rituals often included the use of water to ensure a safe passage. In many tombs, the walls were decorated with depictions of the Nile, which were meant to represent the journey of the deceased's soul as it crossed the river into the afterlife. Additionally, the burial process itself sometimes involved the use of water for purification, as it was believed that this could cleanse the deceased's spirit. Water was also used to make offerings to the gods in hopes of a favorable journey to the afterlife. The Nile thus held both practical and symbolic significance in death as it did in life. The connection between the river and the afterlife made it a powerful and enduring symbol for the Egyptians. Throughout Egyptian history, water was a vital resource not only for practical purposes, but also for the growth of their civilization. As Egypt's population expanded, the role of water became even more important. The Egyptians developed an intricate system of irrigation to sustain their crops and ensure food security. They also built elaborate networks of canals to transport goods and maintain communication throughout the empire. As a result, the river became a central feature of daily life and a foundation for Egypt's economic and social structure. Cities, temples, and tombs were all situated near the river, and the Nile's waters connected these various sites, allowing for the exchange of ideas, goods, and services. The river's role in trade was particularly significant, as it enabled the Egyptians to engage in commerce with neighboring regions, such as Nubia, the Levant, and beyond. As Egypt's wealth grew, so did the demand for water, and the Egyptians continued to innovate new ways of managing their resources. The role of water in Egyptian society, economy, and culture was undeniable, and it was integral to their continued success. Water's influence on Egyptian architecture is also noteworthy. Many of Egypt's most impressive structures, including temples, pyramids, and even cities, were built with consideration of the river's role in society. The proximity to the Nile allowed builders to easily transport materials, especially heavy stones. Waterways and canals were used to ferry massive stone blocks, making it possible to construct some of the largest monuments in human history. The use of water in construction wasn't limited to just transportation. The Egyptians also used it for cooling purposes, especially in the construction of monumental structures like temples. These buildings, often adorned with pools or reflecting basins, used water to create a serene atmosphere that was symbolic of the connection between the divine and the earthly. In this way, the Nile played a direct role in the way the Egyptians viewed and designed their architecture, linking the physical environment with their religious beliefs and practices. The relationship between water and the Egyptian people can also be seen in their art and literature. The Nile River was frequently depicted in Egyptian artwork, with representations of boats, fishermen, and agricultural scenes along its banks. Many of the gods and goddesses of Egypt were linked to water, and their stories were depicted in murals, statues, and other art forms. The significance of water in Egyptian culture is also reflected in their literature, particularly in texts such as the Pyramid texts and the Book of the Dead, where the river is often mentioned in relation to the afterlife. Water was used symbolically in these works to represent life, death, renewal, and purification. The reverence the Egyptians had for the Nile was apparent in their art and writing, where water was depicted as both a life-giving force and a symbol of spiritual purity. These representations show the deep connection the Egyptians had to the river and the integral role that water played in their worldview. The central role of water in ancient Egypt's civilization is a reminder of its essential importance in shaping societies and cultures. In Egypt, water was far more than just a physical resource. It was a symbol of life, death, and the divine. The Nile, in particular, was the lifeblood of Egyptian society, providing the resources necessary for agriculture, trade, and daily living. Water influenced not only practical aspects of life, but also the spiritual and cultural dimensions of Egyptian civilization. From its use in agriculture and construction to its symbolic importance in religious practices, the Nile shaped the very foundations of Egyptian society. Without water, Egypt would not have become the great civilization that it was, and its legacy continues to inspire awe and admiration. In many ways, the ancient Egyptians understood the power of water better than we do today, as it was central to their survival, prosperity, and spirituality. The story of Egypt is inextricably tied to water, and it remains one of the defining features of the civilization's enduring legacy. As we reflect on the labor and dedication of the ancient builders, we can't help but admire the effort and patience they put into their work. Every stone, every brick, every layer placed was a testament to their belief in the importance of their task. It's remarkable to think that these structures, built without the modern tools we rely on today, have stood the test of time. Their work wasn't rushed, but instead crafted with precision and care, showing that great things often take time. Take a moment to think about that. What are the things in your life that require patience and dedication? Like the ancient builders, we sometimes need to approach our tasks with a quiet, steady focus. Their story teaches us that even the most difficult challenges can be overcome with persistence and a calm mind. As we move through our own lives, it's worth remembering the value of patience and the strength of steady progress. It's incredible to realize that the monuments built thousands of years ago still stand today, a testament to the enduring power of human effort. The pyramids, the ziggurats, and the other monumental structures were not just physical achievements, they were reflections of the people who created them, and as we look at them today, we're reminded of what humans can achieve when they work together with care, dedication, and patience. Perhaps, like these ancient builders, we can all find ways to approach our own projects with the same sense of purpose and perseverance. The world moves fast, and sometimes it feels like we have to keep up with it, but there's power in slowing down and taking the time to do things right. Just as these ancient structures took years to build, so to do the most important things in our lives take time and effort. As you settle into this moment, think about the work you've done today or the tasks ahead of you. There's no rush. Like the builders of the past, we can approach each task with calm, steady focus. Every small step forward counts, and with time, patience, and persistence, we can build something meaningful. Whether it's a project at work, a personal goal, or a simple daily task, it's the steady progress that matters most. The ancient builder's legacy reminds us that every journey begins with a single step. Even the grandest of structures had to start somewhere, and each block laid was an essential part of the bigger picture. No matter how overwhelming a task may seem, it's the steady progress that gets us closer to the finish line. So, whether you're building a dream, a relationship, or simply a peaceful evening, take it one step at a time. Looking at these monuments today, it's almost as if the builder's spirit still lives in the stones they left behind. The pyramids, the ziggurats, and the other wonders they built stand as a quiet reminder that great things take time. Each stone was placed with intention, each step taken with care. And in that, there's a lesson for all of us. The most lasting achievements in life are the ones built with patience, persistence, and purpose. Sometimes, we may feel the pressure of time, the rush to get things done quickly. But as the ancient builders show us, it's not always about speed. It's about the steady, focused effort, working towards a goal, no matter how long it takes. We can take solace in knowing that it's okay to work at our own pace. Every small effort, every little step, brings us closer to our ultimate goal. If this story of ancient builders has inspired you, or if you found comfort in their patience and dedication, feel free to let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how the lessons of the past can be applied to our own lives. And if you enjoyed this peaceful journey into history, don't forget to like the video and subscribe so we can continue exploring more stories together. Let's take a moment to appreciate the quiet progress we make each day. So, as you reflect on the builders of the past, take a deep breath and feel the quiet rhythm of their work. They built not only structures of stone, but legacies of patience, cooperation, and determination. And as we continue on our own paths, we can carry these lessons with us. Take your time, focus on what matters, and know that even the smallest efforts will lead to great things over time. As we think about the builders of the past, we can't help but wonder about their mindset. They didn't build for fame or fortune, but for something far greater. They built with the knowledge that their work would outlive them, that their labor would become part of something much larger than themselves. It was a humbling thought, knowing that the work of their hands would be seen by generations to come. The patience required to build these monuments was immense. Each stone, each brick, was placed carefully, slowly, with a deep sense of purpose. It wasn't about rushing to finish the task. It was about doing it right, taking the time to ensure that everything fit together perfectly. This slow, steady work was the foundation of greatness, and the results speak for themselves. It's easy to forget in today's fast-paced world that some of the most impressive feats of human achievement were built over long periods of time. The ancient builders didn't have the luxury of fast machines or shortcuts. They relied on the strength of their bodies and the clarity of their minds to get the job done. And in doing so, they created structures that have withstood the test of time. As we move through our own lives, we can take a lesson from the ancient builders. Sometimes, we are too quick to seek instant results, too eager to see the fruits of our labor. But the builders of the past remind us that great things take time, and that patience, persistence, and care are the true keys to lasting success. Imagine the workers of ancient Egypt laboring under the hot sun, day after day, their efforts adding up to something extraordinary. Their work was not glamorous. It was repetitive and exhausting. But with each stone they placed, they were creating a monument that would be admired for thousands of years. In their quiet, steady work, they left behind a legacy that would transcend their own lives. In the same way, the work we do today, no matter how small it may seem, contributes to a larger purpose. Every step we take, every task we complete, is part of a bigger picture. And like the builders of the pyramids, we too are shaping something that will outlive us. It may not be a monument of stone, but it's a legacy nonetheless. As we continue our own journeys, let's remember the value of patience. Great things aren't built overnight. They are the result of time, effort, and a commitment to doing things right. Whether it's a personal goal, a career project, or a relationship, it's the steady, consistent effort that makes the biggest difference in the long run. The ancient builders also remind us of the power of cooperation. No great achievement was ever done alone. It took a team of people working together, each contributing their skills and knowledge to the project. And when we work together with others, when we support and help one another, the results can be truly remarkable. These ancient structures, whether it's the pyramids in Egypt or the ziggurats in Mesopotamia, stand as a reminder of what humans are capable of when they work together with patience and focus. The legacy of the builders lives on in the stones, in the structures they left behind, but it also lives on in the lesson they teach us, that the quiet, steady effort is often the most powerful. And so, as we pause and reflect on the work of the ancient builders, we can find inspiration in their story, their patience, their perseverance, their ability to stay focused on the task at hand. These qualities can guide us as we navigate our own paths. Just as the pyramids stand tall against the test of time, so too can our own efforts, when done with care and determination, leave a lasting legacy. Thank you for joining me on this quiet journey through the past. Your presence here makes these stories come to life, and I hope the peaceful rhythm of history has brought you a sense of calm. Remember, even the grandest of feats started with small, simple steps, much like the gentle rhythm of sleep. Take a deep breath, relax, and let the simplicity of the past bring you peace tonight. If you enjoyed this exploration into history, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you can join us on more peaceful journeys through time. Next time, we'll be diving into the quiet, steady life of medieval farmers who worked the land in a time when every harvest mattered. It's a story of hard work, patience, and the rhythms of life in the Middle Ages. Until then, rest well and let history guide you into a peaceful sleep.